Bana. Welcome for today's episode. Today we are going to be basically talking about legal stuff, legal framework, but from a historical perspective. I have a lovely guest today. She's called Doreen. But she can introduce herself and tell us a little about herself. What do you do? Who are you? Where are you from? Not where are you from, but yeah. Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, thank you, Bana. I'm happy to be here. My name is Doreen Guttabingi. Oh, I prefer to be called by my surname, Guttabingi. Yes, I'm a lawyer. I work with Human Rights Awareness and Promotion firm, HRAPF. And we've been working around advocacy and, legal things generally, legal things to do with the rights and the living of LGBT persons. Yes, but I would like to stress though, the conversation we're going to have is purely for myself. I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for the organization that I work for. Yes.
That's very lawyer talk.
Just for clarity.
That's very lawyer talk. The views expressed on this program.
Yes, are my own.
All right. I want to because you're a lawyer and I'm not a lawyer. So I'm going to start from my perspective, and then give me the legal thing. So for me, growing up, my first legal run-in with queerness or homosexuality was when I had, what I got that you would be arrested for being gay.
Yeah.
And this was even way before the 2009 bill, the introduction of the 2009 bill. Around that time, because I was so much in church and church service, there was that case of the pastor, and they had arrested, I think, some people were accusing a pastor and they were in court and all that, right?
Yeah.
But I was very, very fascinated by the way the case ended. That they charged the people for defamation rather than homosexuality. So that's how I got interested in finding out about those. So for starters, basics. Can someone be arrested for being gay?
The law in Uganda, ideally, what the law says, we do not criminalize identities. We criminalize actions. The law criminalizes actions. So we have, with Anti-Homosexuality Act, yes, 2023, we have two major offenses that may get the day-to-day queer person. We have the offense of homosexuality and attempted homosexuality. That is beyond, like, just simply someone existing as a queer person. So those two offenses do not speak to the person's actual identity or to their sexuality. They only speak to the actions. For example, attempted homosexuality. I wake up one day and find another woman and I think, oh, that's really attractive, and all of that. And so I ask her out. I text her and tell her, you know what, this, I think I would like us to do this, and the other together. And so she's alarmed. And then she texts me to the police and reports. What I would be charged with is attempted homosexuality. It could be the same if she accepted my advances. Yeah. And in the process of accepting my advances, someone finds out that we are trying to homosexualize, we're trying to do, homosexual activities. And so with that, she would also be arrested. Note, with the Anti-Homosexuality Act, consent is not a defense. You all go. Yeah, so that would be attempted homosexuality, because in essence, we actually haven't done the action. Now, the offense of homosexuality itself is doing it. It's basically what they call having carnal knowledge against the order of nature. Yes. It's generally sex that is not the The typical heterosexuality way, yes, the typical heterosexual between a biological man and a biological woman. Yes, yeah.
There's something you hinted at, and that I was hinting at earlier as well. You specifically mentioned the anti-homosexuality act.
Yes.
But as someone who works with HRAPF or a legal entity, you know that gay people, queer people are arrested and charged with a myriad of offenses.
Oh, yes.
Around their sexuality, but not really targeting their sexuality.
Yes.
For example, HRAPF did work, I think 2-3 years ago, on the idle and disorderly law. Right?
Yes.
Because the assumption is if you're dressed a certain way or looking
a certain way, yeah.
in the wrong place, you're arrested for being a public nuisance.
Yes.
So technically you're arrested for being a public nuisance, but your sexuality are playing a big factor into what you're being arrested for.
Yes.
So I just wanted to you to highlight for me some of the legal things over the years, or the legal loopholes that queer people fall in, yeah? May not be arrested for being gay, but for looking gay, or for other things, yeah? Because I also understand that there have been laws away from the Sexuality Act that have been passed along the way, so I just wanted to just briefly share some of the legal pitfalls queer people can fall in away from the act itself.
Okay. Oh, that is also to note the Anti-Homosexuality Act came in 2023. Does that mean that queer people haven't been affected before? No. They've certainly faced significant challenges legally because of their human rights. Sorry, because of their sexuality. Now, one thing to note is the questions or the legal issues that queer people get into trouble for don't always have to be expressly stated in the law. They'll always find something. So we've seen in the past people are being, arrested for things like impersonation. Like, oh yes, that would affect people that basically cross-dress. They'll also get them for now, like that offense of personation, they're telling you, oh no, we're totally you're pretending to be what you're not. Yeah. So you'd find that, oh yeah, someone's cross-dressing, or they look a certain way, they can't explain, are you a man, are you a woman? They don't seem to understand what you are. Before you know it, you're behind. But also one thing to note amongst all of those things is these laws usually get poor people.
Yes.
These laws are for poor queer people, because we know here in Uganda people openly exist as queer people. Maybe they don't openly say, oh, I'm queer. But they do openly exist as queer people. And the reasons as to why they'll never be affected is because
they have the resources
exactly
to not get in trouble.
Yes. Yeah. But historically, you see the things that Ugandans have been facing and maybe some of the issues that have been litigated by law. In our courts of law, I remember the first case that I know about, this is to note, I'm new in the movement. I haven't been here very long. But from my reading and understanding, yes. And, with the work that I'm doing and my education, there's things that I've learned along the way and that are really relevant to queer history in Uganda. I've seen, I think the first case that I know of was the case of Victor Mukasa and someone called Oyo Yvonne versus, I think, the Attorney General. What basically happened in that one is that there was a raid. These guys were staying in a place, I think, probably in Chireka or something. And yes, Victor was staying at that place and they know, oh yeah, that place has a homosexual in it. So now they're looking for ways to get this person. And then they come one day and raid their home and they find another friend of theirs there, Yvonne Oyo. And so they break in, they take their property, some papers they took, and then really, really treated the person they found there really badly. They did some checks on her body, touched her inappropriately, fondled her, and all of those things, and then took them to the police. Yeah, when they got there, they're basically saying, oh yeah, we did that because we suspect you're homosexuals. You guys are doing homosexual. You have homosexual tendencies going on here. And I remember the case. I know for sure that the case went to court, and court decided in their favor. That was actually the first victory that we've had. Court decided in their favor, stating that they certainly did abuse their human rights. Yeah, in that case, that they certainly did abuse their human rights, and the AG and the people that did it were liable. The actual person that did it and led it was the local council chairperson, the LC1, I think, and so that person was liable for the actions that they did. Yeah, but even then, the judge in making that decision said that it wasn't about homosexuality. It was about all human rights. So maybe they were protecting, but they're not exactly protecting at the same time because they're giving all of these disclaimers. Yes. That same thing happened with the case that challenged. Yes,
The concept 20.
exactly. But before we even get to the
Because
COSIF
that one
20,
was- me, I'm the Gen Z. I'm the one who remembers recent cases.
yes,
Yeah.
but before we even get to the COSIF case, there is the case that challenged the Anti-Homosexuality Act of 2013. Yes, that first act, the case that challenged it, I think it was Professor Geoloka and others versus the Attorney General. That was from 2014. It was a victory in that it had the law that had been passed nullified, declared unconstitutional, and struck out, and all of those things. But the problem with that is it was decided on technicality. There was no quorum when Parliament was passing the law. So they refused completely to speak on the human rights of queer people. So it was a win. It certainly was a win anyway because the law was taken away, but also it paved way for a new law to come in, and that's probably why we have the Anti-Homosexuality Act of 2023, because the other time they did those things, and then one of the things that they were mentioning when they were passing this one is, oh no, this time we shall even do it properly. There will be no issues of technicalities and all of those things. They still passed it with a technicality. There's a problem. They didn't follow the procedure as they should, the consultations and all of those things, because no proper law really passes within a month or 2 or 3. There has to be a lot at stake for a law to actually pass. So it can't just pass on short notice like that. So
actually, they told me the only thing that passes within weeks are usually budgets and supplementary, those money-related things.
Yes.
I imagine.
Yes, but a law like that one, it has to take time. There has to be consultations. There has to be, a lot of things that go into play when they're making decisions around laws. Not just waking up one day like, oh yeah, let's moot it, let's come up with provisions, this, that, the other, and before you know it, the law has been passed. Yeah. So now that is just the laws that speak to homosexuality in itself. There's other things that happen. For example, there's been the case of Agent Juko versus the Attorney General challenging the Equal Opportunities Commission. I think that was in 2009, yes. The Equal Opportunities Commission has an act, first of all. It's basically like it is a body that is supposed to ensure that everyone has,
Everyone's voice is heard.
yes, everyone has an equal opportunity, their rights can be met, and all their needs generally, as the government or as the constitution provides, can be met regardless of whatever their diversities are. So interestingly, in that law, in the Act, the Equal Opportunities Act, they had a provision that was saying social and cultural minorities may not always be covered. So they were seeking to exclude, and obviously when you see social minorities, who are the first people that come into mind? Queer people, because there certainly are social minorities. There are cultural minorities.
The prejudice is social and cultural.
Yes.
So petty, yeah.
Yeah, so those people are not covered. So he challenged this, and the decision was actually made in favor. Yes, and they said that provision was unconstitutional, and obviously the Equal Opportunities Commission with the law, they had to do better to change that. So I think that was one way in which the rights of queer people were affirmed somehow. But still, queer people still went ahead to face, different things. For example, we had the Rolling Stone saga.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember that. The magazine died in weeks.
Thank you. So they come up one morning and they plaster 100 homos and where they stay. They put up people's faces, the homes where they stay, or like, oh no, this one, they have this home, it is here and there, and that is where they hold that. Thank you. And that is where they hold the gay orgies. Look, which is also very, I don't know, I think very sad, because the moment someone thinks of someone to be queer, the first thing they think about is how they have sex. I think when queer people come together, that's all they do. All they're doing is orgies, and saying all of these, very funny things about them, ati bam shafters, this, that, the other, which is really sad. And anyway, what happened with the Rolling Stone? They published like 100 people faces, names, where they stay, and things like that. And this action was challenged in court. I think that was the case of Kasha Jacqueline and others versus Rolling Stone. I think others, among the others, were the late David Kato. We have Pepe Julian Ozima. I hope I pronounced that right. But yes, they challenged that action, and it was against Rolling Stone. Thankfully, the judge made the decision in their favor. They said that indeed their right to privacy was infringed upon, but they still added the other disclaimer that we saw. Oh, this is not about gayism, this is not about homosexuality. It's just human rights. Yes. And so, while that was a win, still no one, even when they, give in favor, they never really want to acknowledge.
I feel like that is the through line through most of the victories we've had in court.
Yes.
That they will not explicitly say this is a victory for queer people.
Yeah.
Because even in the Joseph case,
it was the same thing.
Like they were like, we are going to, like they were gross human rights violations.
Yes.
But it's not because they were gay, it's because the person just, they didn't appreciate their human rights, beat them, embarrass them, now giving them.
Exactly. They still, they still had to give that disclaimer. And besides that, with the Kosif case, with all the things that happened, even when they made that decision, and they had all these damages that are going to be paid and things like that, they held, because the case was seeking that they hold all the parties that were involved in their personal capacity, but it was basically only the local council.
Yes.
I think it's called what, Chimba, Haji Chimba something. Yes.
The one of Chegera. Right?
Yes. He was the only person that was really held into in their personal capacity. All the other people, the people that worked with prisons, seem to have been exonerated some way or another. Yeah. So now remember, while what the chairperson did was bad, having the place raided, abusing their human rights, the media spectacle, and all of these things. They faced more gross human rights violations when they were in prison. Yes. So, but then the fact that prison gets to get away with it somehow, and the people that did the things they did, maybe they didn't exactly get away with it somehow, but they actually did when you think about it, because there wasn't much of a consequence on their part. So that is also something to think about. They said, oh no, this is not about the human rights of gay people, of homosexuals. It's simply, oh no, human rights. Yeah, there's gross violations and all of that, but nothing to expressly state that this group of people is being targeted because of their sexuality, because of their differences, because of their experiences. And so maybe we need to protect them specifically because of that. Yes.
I feel like also another through line is erasure.
Yeah.
Because if someone is to do research, I'm giving an example. I'm researching on Uganda's laws and policies about queer people. When you read through the judgments, for example, and these are gross human violations against queer people. The Rolling Stone case, all these cases where we got victories.
Yeah.
And they will say, this is just an individual human rights thing. It's not because of their group, right?
Yeah.
And the through line there is, including even in the law that Parliament passed. Yeah, because after that, then they can justify the through line through that, even with the law, is gay people should not exist, or
Yeah.
don't exist, or we are not recognized
Yeah.
by the law. Yeah. So we recognize you as a person, yeah, that they beat you, but your identity or your everything that you
Yeah.
are, we are putting it aside. Yeah. And yet it is one of the key factors that causes the injustice and
Yes.
violence in the first place. And they don't do that for other groups, like you mentioned, the Equal Opportunities Commission. They will explicitly say that cultural minority,
Social minorities. Who is even a social minority law?
yeah, they'll explicitly say that because they won't even say like gay people because they want to. It's also a culture thing, I think, in Uganda, where we want to cover up.
Yeah, and pretend things don't exist.
Yeah.
We generally have a culture of silence. I think I first made sense of the culture of silence with the women's movement, because, all of the work that is being done around, we're pushing for SRHR, like sexual reproductive health and rights. We're telling the girls, speak out, menstruation is not a shame. All of these things come up in the first place because we think, no, they need to keep quiet. Why do we have to talk about your sexuality as a woman? Why do we have to talk about your reproductive health and rights? It is a secret.
Used to tell us.
Thank you.
These things are only in
They tell you, oh no, I'm just saying behind. That is not information we want to hear. These are the things we want to openly talk about. And so we've created a culture of silence. And that's the same thing that we have when it comes to issues of queer people. When when you're having conversations around especially LGBTQ persons or female-bodied persons within the queer, within the LGBT community, the conversation is always, we don't actually know things about them. We don't actually know what are their needs. Like when the government speaks, if they help you and they speak about, people within the LGBT community, they'll say, oh yes, gay men, MSM, transgender women, because they're talking about them purely from a point of HIV programming. But outside of that, we never hear. Now, when it comes to the female-bodied persons, who may not always, who actually are never thought about when you have issues of HIV programming, then we suddenly have erasure. It's like they don't exist at all. Who knows what a trans man needs? Who knows what a lesbian needs? You just hear, oh, lesbian. Who knows? Who knows? Like lesbians out there, they don't even know that they can catch STIs, with the kind of sexual relations that they have with each other. Some of them don't even know. We don't even know what products they need because they're not even there in the market. Like, everyone will tell you, oh yes, lubricant, condoms. Who knows what the lesbians use? Who knows what they need? But aren't we doing advocacy for them anyway? So I think it's also, it comes from a point of the fact that we have, a culture of silence. People keep quiet. Oh yeah, that woman. Oh yeah, she must be a lesbian. Keep quiet. Or why is she not married? Why is this? Keep quiet. And for me, I think, because even that's the same thing the president was saying when they were talking about the Anti-Homosexuality Act and all of this. It's like, no, we don't seek to criminalize anyone's identity. Don't tell us. Keep quiet. We don't want to hear about it. Like, oh, are you gay? Okay, be gay. We don't want to hear about it. Don't tell us.
And then you would justify that by saying, I don't kiss my wife.
But the thing is, gay people don't have to do anything. Thank you. It's like even the whole thing around marriage, because gay people are not asking you to marry each other. They're not seeking to have marriage laws. At least they've not yet reached at that level, because we need at least basic human rights at first before we get into the whole, okay, now can we marry?
But also, even when we are seeking for marriage, they are not seeking to marry you.
Thank you. Like, we're not trying to marry you. Like, let gay people be gay people. But the moment a person exists as gay, oh no, they're dropping it down earthwards. The moment as a movie has, gay characters and everyone's talking about, oh no, they're bringing it down earthwards. Yet every movie, every series, every cartoon has a mommy and a daddy and children. Isn't that promotion of heterosexuality anyway? So I think, yes, silence. Everything is supposed to be kept a secret. Like they're talking about, okay, yeah, big gay people in peace, do all of those things, but silence. We don't want to hear about it. Silence. But they're not even talking, like, no one's coming and saying, have you seen lesbians having sex by at the street? Don't we see straight people doing some of these things in the open? Are they trying to,
wherever, yeah.
are they, have you seen, and people who talk about, oh no, that's how gay men have sex, has any of them ever seen gay men having sex? Or it's just what they imagine in their head? So I think it's a very interesting thing to think about.
Yeah.
Sad as well.
Our law, the through line in our laws is just
Exactly. Erase them, pretend they don't exist. That's why they're saying, oh no, they shouldn't have children, they shouldn't do this, they shouldn't do that, they shouldn't do that. Because we actually have a law that is going to come, the law that seeks to, it's the Assisted Reproductive Technology Bill. I think it was first tabled in 2023. There's a conversation around it in 2024. And the things that are being talked about in the law, and one of the people that tabled it, and the people that brought it forward is, oh yeah, these women and these men are going out there and getting, all this reproductive, technology, the assistance, they're getting, the IVF, they're getting, to do surrogacy, they're getting to do this, and the other. And we need to regulate it. And they're saying, okay, why do we need to regulate it? Because the homosexuals are going to try to have children. Like, before you even think about how exploitative it might be to the people that are involved, because if someone's being a surrogate, maybe it's going to be exploitative to them, because maybe they're a poor person who is now forced to do certain activities to get some small money. No one's thinking, okay, are they giving these people the right medication? The people, taking part in the process getting, the correct advice? Are their needs being met the way they're supposed to be met? No, none of that is being considered. They're thinking, the homosexuals, yeah, the gays are going to try and reproduce with each other. Like, it's very, very interesting to think about.
Okay, we have really fast spent our time. So I want us to wrap up. Any last words? It's been quite depressing, the conversation.
I know.
But any last words as we wrap up?
Legally in Uganda, I feel like in Uganda we came from bad to maybe worse to maybe bad-ish. Yeah, bad for sure, bad. And then now we're at the worst, because we have this law that criminalizes anything, criminalizes even conversations like this one that we're having. We're doing promotion of homosexuality right now, people doing work around advocating for the human rights, people doing anything, They're telling us, no, we don't criminalize identities, but everything else around it, health, employment, existence in itself is just criminalizing people for their sexuality and their identity, as long as it doesn't fall within what is conventional and is expected. So I think for me, that's very, very sad. I don't know what we're going to do, because it scares me to think about what is the Supreme Court going to say at the end. When the Supreme Court...
I mean, they might just wait this out until 2030, 50, something.
I don't even know if that's worse or better, because now we're in limbo, we don't know. But then
I think the limbo is because I feel like the Ugandan Supreme Court is torn between the two things of upholding the culture and the cultural views,
yeah,
but also upholding the straight letter of the law and looking good, like you see how Roe versus Wade in the US, for example, the ruling on abortion was passed in the 70s, and like years and years down the road, when people look back and they are like, okay, that was good. Yeah. So I think the Supreme Court is looking at this like, what do I want the generations to think? Yeah. Because as Ugandans and our legal system, we've fallen into lots of pitfalls of like, me thinking, what is this law? Why are we inheriting like laws from Britain? Yeah, we fall into that. So I feel like they are balancing out those two things of like living in the moment, but also leaving a legacy that when people look back, they don't think that what were we thinking then?
Do they even think about that? I don't know.
Like they do. I feel like they do. It's in their consideration because it's in even in the statements and the word and the judgments that they do, I keep forgetting the political judgments they keep making. But even, for example, even the electoral challenges, sorry to go to politics briefly, but even the electoral challenges, in the language they're trying to use, you feel like they are really sidestepping, sounding autocratic, or sounding like they're not appreciating the moment, what it is. Because it feels like they want someone in the future, if things have changed or what, to come back and be like, maybe I can give them a benefit of doubt. That kind of
I don't know. For me, what scares me is it's like they're making considerations and seeing all of these things, but then at the end of the day, they say no. For example, one of the arguments when they were giving the decision in the appeal against the Anti-Homosexuality Act 2023, one of the arguments was, oh no, yeah, we do recognize that people should not be discriminated upon on grounds of their sex, employment, this, that, economic status, and things like that. But then they went and said, so the argument here was, while we recognize that sex may include sexual orientation, in the Ugandan context, it doesn't. And so we don't have to discriminate people in regards to their sex, but somehow we can discriminate them on grounds of their sexual orientation because our culture doesn't do this. Like for me, they stated it in a certain way, but for me, when I break it down simply, that is actually what he meant. And for me, that scares me because what is culture? You understand? How many queer people do you know? Doesn't the existence of queerness then form our culture to include them in the way?
The fact that they have found that these people exist and they have been around for a while.
Yeah.
Because even the president himself, made the statements, even way back,
yeah,
the old law, he affirms the existence.
Yeah.
But he's trying to say, yeah, I know they exist, but why am I being stressed talking about them right now?
Yeah.
That kind of thing, right?
But then you're being stressed talking about them because you're passing a law against them. Leave them be. Leave them be. Then you won't have to have a conversation about them. Because people are existing in the first place. And then they come up one day and bring, all these colonial laws and, they're saying, oh no, don't do this, don't do that, don't do the other. No one's walking to church. I've not seen two men going to church and asking, please marry us. No. I've not seen any two men that have gone to the registrar, at URSB and asked, no, please marry us. I don't know. Like when I think about it, I don't know. It's like an endless loop of thought and trying to make sense of it because I don't understand it.
The beauty is, while they are trying to erase like we keep having to make them more uncomfortable by simply existing.
Yeah.
By simply being. And I had a conversation with the creatives and they were saying that Gen Z's being all out on TikTok, Twitter, like on social media, and they are being queer and open at themselves, really threatens like this thing that they are trying to uphold. Like, please go back in hiding.
I
like
know.
We used to know you.
Keep quiet about it. No, people are out there and openly living.
We've grown up seeing other queer people.
I think that's one of the things that gives me hope. People like in the early 20s, these people are existing and there's nothing you can do about it. The only thing that scares me is because now we're having a new wave of conservatism. I feel like by the time they're 29 and 30, they'll be ready to conform. Like, oh yeah, the boys are saying, oh no, I'm looking for a wife. And the girls are saying, oh no, I need a husband.
But
that scares me.
I feel like when people become more conservative, people tend to be, on the other end of the spectrum, people tend to be even more liberal.
Yeah.
Because with more conservative things, there's loopholes. There is pitfalls that they fall into.
Yeah.
They'll make bad laws, they'll make bad policies.
And we have them. Yeah. We can see it now.
Yeah. And then people are like, we really need this bad policy.
Yeah. We really need this kind of laws. Yeah.
Because,
yeah. But for me, the decision in the Supreme Court scares me because it feels like it's final. Like, What happens after that? Okay, yes, we have those other appeal places that we can go to, the ESCJ and all of those other places. But I feel like when Uganda says it finally, like, we don't have rights for LGBT persons, that scares me. That really does scare me. But I guess there's hope to live another day.
That's why me, I'm like, I prefer they take their switch time.
Thank you, because we're in limbo.
Changes,
exactly. Maybe somehow one of the judges of the Supreme Court will be like, no. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was a nice conversation.
Yeah.
I know.